this one is a little long. So it's 9 squared divided by 3 minus 5 squared minus 2 squared times 5.
And we've got some choices there, it looks like, as
We
well.
do.
Okay. Well, it looks like what we're doing is we're simplifying that expression. I'll go ahead and take this one. I just copied this from the email that was sent. I put it on my screen so that we have it. One of the things that, since we have to simplify, one of our major rules with simplifying expressions is that we have to use our order of operations, which you may have heard before is "Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally," or PEMDAS. What this says is that it just explains the order that we need to simplify any parts of expressions. So P stands for parentheses. We're going to simplify anything inside of parentheses first. You might notice if you look at our expression, we don't have any parentheses there. E stands for exponents. So exponents are the same thing as powers. We do actually have a few of those there. M stands for multiplication. D stands for division. Now, it should be noted that these two should be done left to right. So if we see a division before we see a multiplication, they would always come left to right. So actually, and I do even end up seeing that in this problem here. If you see here division and multiplication, those should go left to right. That's one of the most common errors when it comes to following order of operations. Same goes for addition and subtraction. It also goes from left to right. So if we see a subtraction before we see addition, again, it's left to right. So again, I don't know, part of how I do this is I would almost use my PEMDAS as a checklist, thinking about, or just checking off of the list. So starting with P or parentheses, I can check that off because there are no parentheses in our problem. We can move on to the next step. You may or may not see all of these features in an expression. The next one is exponents, and as I mentioned, we have a few exponents here. We have 9 squared, 5 squared, and 2 squared. So these would be the parts of the problem that we would be focusing on right now. We would do first. Everything else should get rewritten. So 9 squared, we're going to get 81. 5 squared, we get 25. And 2 squared, we get 4. As I mentioned before, everything else we're going to rewrite. So we're going to say 81 divided by 3 minus 25 minus 4 times 5. So there's our exponents. We got those done. Simplified those. Now, as I mentioned, multiplication and division, they go together from left to right. So you might notice here so here's some division. And then I also have some multiplication here. So they have to go from left to right. So we're going to have to do our division first. First, we'll do 81 divided by 3. We get 27. And then we'll rewrite the other stuff that we didn't touch. Then we have 4 times 5, so that has to come second. And we get 20. So there, we're done with our multiplication and our division. Now we would do any addition or subtraction from left to right. So we'll start with our furthest to the left, which is the 27 minus 25. And you get 2. And then we rewrite everything else. And then at this point, we just have one last operation to do. We have 2 minus 20, and we get negative 18. One thing, I guess, tips when it comes to this problem, or type of problem, one of the tips is, as you saw me do, is either underlining the part that you're working on or highlighting the part you're working on. The other tip would be to show all of your steps row by row. Each expression and each step should be equivalent in step by step. And I used to tell my middle schoolers when I taught this is your work should almost look like an ice cream cone, where we start where it's really complicated and we're breaking it down smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller till we get to the tip of that ice cream cone. So looks like our answer here is C, negative 18. So
It's a good visual, like the arithmetic symbols underneath PEMDAS. I couldn't think of what that was for a second.
oh, right. And it is actually, it's really important to organize your work with those as well. I think most of the mistakes that I see with these are just when people are not organizing their work very well.
Right.
And just trying to do the order and keep track of what they did and
Too
what
much
they
in your
didn't
head.
do and which numbers did I not subtract yet or divide or whatever. So
Right.
if you can keep track of your work in a very linear way, then that helps a lot with accuracy.